suppose I should start by admitting something embarrassing. We lost the war before we even knew we were losing it. The Kartheen Dominion, spanning 300 star systems and commanding fleets that could blot out suns, defeated by a single member of the species we had dismissed as primitive tool users with delusions of grandeur. Errors with delusions of grandeur. Humans. The name itself had been a joke in our war councils, a punchline, something to chuckle about over fermented kelp while planning the inevitable conquest of their pathetic little blue planet. My name is Vex, and I was third combat analyst aboard the Mothership Eternal Dominance, a vessel so massive it had its own gravitational field, so powerful it had reduced 12 civilizations to cosmic dust. I was there the day everything went sideways. The day one human turned our greatest achievement into a floating graveyard. But I am getting ahead of myself. The war had been going spectacularly well, which should have been our first warning sign. Humans had this saying we intercepted from their communications, something about things being too good to be true. We should have listened. 3 months into the invasion, we had glassed 6 of their outer colonies. Minimal resistance. Their defense fleets scattered like frightened prey fish. High Commander Thresh was already composing his victory proclamation. The pompous idiot. I remember standing in the command nexus, watching tactical displays show our forces sweeping through human territory like a cleansing fire. That is when Captain Eliza Morgan made her entrance into our lives. We did not know her name then, of course. She was just unidentified human Vessel 742, a tiny scout ship that had somehow survived the destruction of one of their agricultural stations. Our sensor operators tracked her limping away from the debris field. Standard procedure was to ignore such insignificant targets. We had entire planets to conquer. Why waste ammunition on a single escape pod with delusions of adequacy? See, that was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 was assuming humans thought like rational beings. The scout ship did not run. It did not try to reach the nearest human outpost. Instead, it did something so monumentally stupid that our tactical computers initially classified the behavior as a sensor malfunction. It turned around. It accelerated, and it came straight at us. At the Eternal Dominance. At a mothership carrying 40,000 Kartheen warriors protected by shields that could withstand the full output of a star-going supernova bristling with enough firepower to crack a moon in half. I was in the secondary command center when the alert started. Junior Tactical Officer Wren was the first to notice, his feeding tentacles twitching with confusion as he studied his display. "Sir, that human vessel is approaching our position," he reported to Commander Voss, who was overseeing third shift operations. Voss barely glanced at the screen. "Destroy it." "Sir, it is within our point defense perimeter. The automated systems should engage momentarily." We waited. The point defense systems did not fire. The human ship kept coming, weaving through the computational firing solutions like it knew exactly where our weapons would aim before we did. Impossible, of course. Our targeting algorithms were 6 generations ahead of anything humans possessed. Yet there it was, dodging, sliding between overlapping fields of fire with a precision that made my anterior spine itch with unease. "Manual targeting," Voss ordered, his voice taking on an edge. "I want that insect swatted." 6 heavy plasma cannons swiveled to track the approaching vessel. All the human ship jinked, left, then right, then executed a spiral maneuver that should have torn it apart from the G-forces alone. The plasma bolts passed through empty space where it had been microseconds before. The 6 heavy plasma cannons swiveled to track the approaching vessel. "What is wrong with our systems?" Voss demanded, his skin flushing the purple color of agitation. "How is a primitive chemical rocket evading military-grade targeting?" "It is not a chemical rocket, sir," Wren said quietly, studying his console with what I recognized as growing fear. "That is a Valkyrie-class interceptor. Fusion drive. Those ships are piloted by their special forces." "I do not care if it is piloted by their deity," Voss snapped. "Destroy it now." 20 more weapons batteries opened fire. The human ship danced through the barrage like a leaf in a storm. Never quite where we expected, always moving with that same impossible precision. It was getting closer, much closer. That was when someone should have recognized the pattern. Someone should have realized what was happening. But we were Kartheen, masters of a third of the galaxy, and our arrogance was as thick as the armor plating on our hulls. The human ship reached our hull. "It has landed in docking sector 12, Wren reported. "Should we dispatch security teams?" Voss studied the tactical display, his expression calculating. 1 human against 40,000 Kartheen warriors. Let it come. We will capture this pilot alive and broadcast their interrogation to their homeworld. Let humanity see what happens to those who challenge the Dominion. I remember feeling a chill run through my nerve clusters at those words. Not because I disagreed with the sentiment, but because I had spent months analyzing human military doctrine, and there was something about this entire situation that felt wrong. Humans did not sacrifice themselves for symbolic gestures. Every action had purpose, even the ones that appeared suicidal. "Sir," I said, stepping forward, "perhaps we should consider sealing that sector and venting it to space. If this is a suicide attack, then we will have one dead human and a minor hull breach." Voss interrupted. "I have made my decision, Analyst Vex. Security teams are already moving to intercept." The security teams consisted of 30 Kartheen shock troops, each one a veteran of a dozen campaigns, armed with particle rifles and wearing powered armor that could shrug off anti-vehicle weapons. They moved through the corridors of Sector 12 with professional efficiency, scanner beams cutting through the darkness. The human had to know they were coming. Our internal sensors showed the scout ship's hatch had opened. A single heat signature was moving through the corridors, away from the security teams, deeper into the ship. "What is it doing?" Voss muttered, watching the tactical overlay. "That corridor leads to the maintenance tubes. There is nothing there worth sabotaging." That was when the first security team stopped reporting. Not with screams or weapons fire, they just stopped. One moment, 30 active transponders moving in formation. The next, nothing. Blank spots on the tactical display where Kartheen warriors should have been. "Sensor malfunction," Voss said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Sir, I am reading the same loss of signal on backup systems," Wren reported. "Team 2 is not responding to hails. Send Team 3 to investigate and get me a direct visual feed from that sector." The cameras in Sector 12 were already offline, so were the cameras in Sector 11 and Sector 10, a spreading zone of dead sensors following that single heat signature as it moved through our ship like a ghost. No, not like a ghost, like a predator that understood exactly how dangerous it was to be seen. Team 3 found Team 2, 12 minutes later. What was left of them anyway? The security footage from Team 3's helmet cameras was disturbing. 30 Kartheen warriors, their armor peeled open like fruit casings, their bodies showing precision damage to every critical organ system. No wasted movement, no excessive force, just efficient, brutal killing. And written on the wall and what our chemical analyzers confirmed was Kartheen blood. "You should have let me run." "Lock down all sections," Voss ordered, his composure finally cracking. "Seal the bulkheads. Flood the corridors with nerve gas. I want that human found and neutralized immediately." But the bulkheads would not seal, all the nerve gas canisters would not deploy, and the internal communications network was developing increasingly large blind spots. The human was moving through our infrastructure like a virus, corrupting and subverting every system it touched. "What on deck?" "How is this possible?" Voss demanded. "Our security protocols are military standard. Nothing gets through them without authorization codes that take decades to break." I was studying the pattern of system failures, and a horrible suspicion was forming in my mind. "Sir, what if the human has our authorization codes?" "Preposterous. The codes are randomized every cycle and stored in isolated data cores. There is no way." Ooh. The lights went out. Emergency illumination kicked in, bathing the command center in sickly yellow light. Every console was displaying the same message in crude human script. "I tried to warn you." "Backup power," Voss ordered. "Switch to backup power now." "Already running on backup power, sir," Wren said, his voice barely a whisper. "Primary power grid is offline, along with weapons, shields, and propulsion." "That is not possible. The primary grid has 17 redundant fail-safes. You would need complete access to the ship's central computer core, too." Voss stopped. We all stopped, because we all realized the same thing at the same moment. The human heat signature was now located in the central computer core, which was supposed to be impossible to reach without passing through 6 security checkpoints, each one requiring biometric verification from senior command staff. I pulled up the security logs, my manipulators trembling as I scrolled through the entries. "Sir, the checkpoints logged senior command staff passing through over the last hour. Commander Threx, Sub-Commander Quinn, yourself." "I have been in this command center the entire shift," Voss said flatly. "I know, sir." The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. The human had not just infiltrated our ship, it had infiltrated our systems so thoroughly that it was generating false security logs, impersonating our own command staff, and moving through areas that should have been absolutely secure. "We need to evacuate," I said. "We need to evacuate the mothership right now." "And abandon eternal dominance to a single human? Never. We will flood the computer core with hard radiation. Nothing organic can survive that." The radiation emitters activated on Voss's command. We watched the sensors, waiting for the human heat signature to disappear. It did not disappear. It moved, out of the computer core through the maintenance shafts into the ventilation system, and the ship's internal scanners were reporting something that made my blood run cold. Radiation levels throughout the ship were rising, not from the emitters in the computer core, from everywhere, from the reactor containment fields, which were failing in a cascading pattern that our automated safety systems should have prevented, but somehow were not preventing. "She is going to make the reactors go critical," I said, stating the obvious because someone needed to say it out loud. "She is going to turn this entire ship into a bomb." Voss was already moving, shouting orders to begin emergency evacuation procedures. Alarms blared throughout the Eternal Dominance. 40,000 Kartheen personnel began rushing to escape pods and shuttle bays. Except the escape pods would not launch, the shuttle bay doors would not open, and the internal barriers that should have been opened to allow evacuation were sealed shut, dividing the ship into isolated sections. The human was choosing who lived and who died. Entire sections were being given clear paths to functional escape routes. Other sections, specifically the ones containing senior command staff and critical military personnel, found every exit blocked. Gwen was in one of the blocked sections. So was Voss. "Override the door controls," Voss ordered, manually if necessary. Engineers tried. The doors had been welded shut from the inside, molecularly bonded. It would take hours to cut through, and the reactor status display was showing we had minutes at best. That was when the communications system crackled to life, and we heard her voice for the first time. Human voices sound strange to Kartheen ears, all flat vowels and harsh consonants, but there was something in her tone that translated perfectly across species: exhaustion, anger, and a complete absence of fear. "My name is Captain Eliza Morgan," the voice said, echoing through every speaker on the ship. "3 months ago, your forces attacked Agricultural Station Titan 7. My daughter was stationed there. She was 9 years old, visiting me for her school break. Your bombardment did not give us time to evacuate. I found what was left of her in the wreckage." The words were matter-of-fact, delivered with the emotional inflection of someone reading a maintenance report. Somehow, that made them worse. "I am not going to monologue about revenge or justice or any of that nonsense," Morgan continued. "I am just going to tell you what happens next. This ship is going to explode. Most of your crew is going to survive, because I have opened evacuation routes for them. They will carry this message back to your Dominion. But your command staff, your tactical planners, everyone who made the decision to target civilian stations, you are staying here with me." "You are insane," Voss shouted at the speakers. "You cannot possibly believe this will stop the Dominion. We will send 10 more motherships to replace this one." "Probably," Morgan agreed. "And I will kill those too. Or someone like me will. See, you made a critical error in your intelligence assessment. You assumed humans would be rational about warfare, that we would calculate acceptable losses and negotiate when the odds were against us. But you attacked our children. There is nothing rational about what happens after that. One human cannot." "I am currently in your life support processing center," Morgan interrupted. "In about 90 seconds, the reactor breaches will reach critical cascade. The explosion will be visible from 3 star systems away. Your historians will spend centuries trying to figure out how one human with a scout ship destroyed the pride of your fleet. Want to know the secret?" Despite everything, I found myself leaning toward the speaker, waiting for her answer. "You made your systems too complicated," Morgan said. "Too many redundancies. Too many fail-safes, too many interconnected protocols. Your security was impressive. Sure, but every security system has an administrator mode for maintenance. An administrator access, no matter how well protected, always has a backdoor for when things go catastrophically wrong. I just had to trigger enough catastrophic problems simultaneously to force your systems to grant me elevated access. After that, it was just a matter of time." "You cannot escape," Voss said. "Even if you destroy this ship, you will die with us." "I know," Morgan replied. That is the point. See, I am not here to survive. I am here to make sure you understand what you have started. Every human who lost someone to your invasion, they are going to be just as irrational as me, just as willing to trade their life for yours. You wanted to conquer humanity. Congratulations. You have created 4 billion people who have nothing left to lose, and every reason to make your species regret being born. The reactor alarms reached a fever pitch. The hull was starting to groan under the stress of containment fields that were no longer containing anything. 30 seconds, Morgan said, conversationally. I suggest you make peace with whatever gods your people believe in. As for me, I will see my daughter soon. That is more peace than any of you deserve. The communications cut off. Mus was screaming orders that no one could follow. Engineers were trying to manually override systems that were no longer responding. And I was standing there, watching the countdown, realizing that we had made the worst possible mistake. We had thought humans were like us, that they valued survival above all else, that they would fold when faced with overwhelming force. We had thought wrong. The last thing I remember before the explosion was a strange sense of respect for Captain Eliza Morgan. She had done what our greatest warriors could not. She had made the Kartheen Dominion afraid. The eternal dominance exploded with the force of a small star. The blast wave destroyed 6 escort vessels that were too close to escape. 15,000 Kartheen died instantly. Another 8,000 died in the weeks that followed from radiation exposure and injuries. I survived. Was in one of the sections Morgan had allowed to evacuate. I do not know why she chose to spare me specifically. Perhaps random chance. Perhaps she wanted witnesses. If that was her goal, she succeeded. Because I am here now, recording this account, making sure every member of the Dominion understands what we face. The war is not over. The humans are not defeated. And every single one of them remembers what we did to their worlds. The Kartheen High Council is discussing terms of withdrawal from human space. They are calling it a strategic repositioning. They are pretending we have not lost. But we have lost. One human proved that, Captain Eliza Morgan, who turned the eternal dominance from our greatest weapon into a tomb and in doing so showed her species exactly how to fight us. Sleep well, fellow Kartheen, and pray you never face a human who has nothing left to lose. Because I have seen what they do when you back them into a corner. They do not surrender. They make sure you regret making them fight. The council chamber on Kartheen Prime was supposed to inspire awe. Vaulted ceilings that stretched 12 stories high. Walls carved from compressed neutron matter, harvested from dead stars. Holographic displays showing the vast reach of our dominion across the galaxy. 300 systems under our control. Trillions of beings bowing to Kartheen's superiority. Except now, 6 months after the Eternal Dominance incident, those displays told a different story. 7 systems had declared independence. 12 more were in open revolt, and the human conflict, which was supposed to be a minor skirmish lasting weeks at most, had transformed into something our military analysts were too scared to call by its proper name. A losing war. I stood in the witness chamber, having been summoned to provide my account to the High Council. Again, this was my 4th appearance in 2 months. They kept hoping I would remember some detail that would make the nightmare make sense. High Chancellor Rax presided over the proceedings, his ancient form draped in ceremonial robes that could not quite hide how much weight he had lost since the crisis began. Next to him sat Military Coordinator Thane, whose strategic brilliance had conquered 18 species, and who now looked like he had aged a century in half a year. Analyst Vex, Rax began, his voice carrying the harmonics of formal address. You have reviewed the reports from our continued engagements with human forces? I have, High Chancellor. Then perhaps you can explain to this council why we are losing ships at a rate 17 times higher than projected. Why our supply lines are being cut faster than we can establish new ones. Why 3 of our forward operating bases have gone completely silent in the past month. That I had reviewed the reports. I had also reviewed the classified intelligence that most of the council had not seen yet. The intelligence that made my feeding organs clench with dread every time I thought about it. The humans are learning, High Chancellor. Learning, Thane interjected, his tone sharp. They are primitives playing with fusion drives and kinetic weapons. What is there to learn? They are learning from Captain Morgan's success, I said carefully. The destruction of eternal dominance was not an isolated incident. Which with a concept, human command has dissected every aspect of her infiltration and turned it into doctrine. I activated the holographic display, calling up the data I had compiled. 4 weeks after Eternal Dominance, the battlecruiser Crimson Fang reported a small human vessel approaching their position. The captain, remembering what happened to Commander Voss, immediately ordered full evacuation and withdrew to a safe distance. The human ship self-destructed when it reached weapons range. No casualties. The captain was commended for his quick thinking. "That sounds like a victory," Rack said. "It was a test, High Chancellor. The humans wanted to know if we had learned to fear them. We passed their test by running away from a single scout ship." I pulled up another file. 3 days later, the supply depot at Margin Station detected multiple human vessels approaching. They evacuated immediately following the new protocols. The human ships docked, loaded up with 6 months' worth of military supplies, and left without firing a shot. We gave them our own resources because we were too scared they might be suicide vessels. The council chamber erupted in angry chittering. I waited for them to quiet down before continuing. "The humans call it asymmetric warfare. They cannot match our fleet strength, so they are not trying to. Instead, they are making us terrified of every single human ship we encounter. Every scout vessel could be another Morgan. Every transport could be packed with fusion bombs. Every civilian freighter could be a disguised warship. We are paralyzed by the possibility that any human we see might be willing to die just to hurt us." "Preposterous," Thane declared. "No species can sustain that level of fanaticism. Eventually, self-preservation instincts override everything else. It is basic evolutionary psychology." "Respectfully, military coordinator, that assumption is why we are losing." The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop several degrees. "You did not contradict Thane in open council, not if you valued your career. But I was tired of watching us make the same mistakes." "Explain yourself," Rack said quietly. I took a breath and committed career suicide. "We are not fighting a rational enemy, High Chancellor. We are fighting a species that values abstract concepts like family and home more than their own survival. Captain Morgan proved that a single human willing to die could destroy our most powerful vessel. Now every human who lost someone in our invasion knows they have that power, and there are billions of them. Then we exterminate them," Thane said coldly. "If they will not surrender, we glass every human world until nothing remains but radioactive dust." "We tried that," I said, pulling up more files. 2 months ago, we launched a full planetary bombardment of the colony world they call New Harvest. Population, 3 million. We achieved complete surface sterilization, no survivors. Again, that sounds like victory. It was a recruitment drive. Within 1 week of New Harvest destruction, human resistance attacks increased by 400%. Volunteers flooded their military training centers. Their industrial output doubled as civilian factories converted to war production. We did not break their will to fight. We gave every human in their territory a personal reason to kill us. I highlighted a particular intelligence report, one that had given me nightmares when I first read it. This is a transcript from an intercepted human military communication, a recruitment officer talking to a civilian volunteer who wanted to join their special forces. The hologram displayed the translated text. I read it aloud, my voice steady despite the chill running through my nerve clusters. The volunteer asked how long the training would take. The officer said, 6 months minimum. The volunteer asked if there was a faster option. The officer asked, why the rush? The volunteer said, and I quote, "My parents were on New Harvest. I do not need to know how to survive a mission. I just need to know how to make it count." Silence filled the chamber. "They are training suicide attackers," I continued. "Thousands of them, but they are not mindless fanatics. They are trained soldiers who understand tactics, infiltration, and system exploitation. Every one of them is studying what Morgan did. Every one of them is looking for ways to improve on her methods. So we adjust our security protocols," Thon said. But his voice lacked conviction. "We have adjusted them 7 times in 4 months. The humans adjust faster. Last week, one of their operatives infiltrated forward base Talix. She made it to the reactor core before security caught her. Do you know how she got past our biometric scanners?" No one answered. "She wore a skin suit made from a dead Kartheen soldier. Our sensors registered her as one of us. When security finally cornered her, she had already set the reactor to cascade failure. She smiled at them and said, 'This is for Station 7. Then she triggered the detonation." "Who is Station 7? Rax asked. "Not who, where. A human research outpost we destroyed in the second week of the invasion. 40 scientists. Most of them civilians. The operative who attacked Talix was one of their daughters. She spent 5 months training, learning our language, studying our technology, waiting for her chance. I switched the display to show casualty projections.
At current rates, we will lose operational control of human territory within 8 months.
Not because they are defeating our fleets in open battle, but because our commanders are too scared to commit forces anywhere a human might be waiting. Because our supply lines are bleeding resources every time we abandon a depot to avoid a potential suicide attack. Because every victory costs us more than we can afford to lose. Military Coordinator Thane rose from his seat, his skin flushed dark purple with rage. You are suggesting we surrender to a species we outnumber 1,000 to 1? I am suggesting we negotiate a withdrawal before we lose the capacity to withdraw at all. Cowardice. We should double our forces, triple them, conscript every able-bodied Kartheen and crush these primates under the weight of our numbers. That is exactly what the humans want us to do, I said. Every ship we send into human territory is a potential target. Every soldier we deploy is another casualty waiting to happen. The humans do not need to win battles. They just need to make sure the cost of fighting them exceeds our will to continue. Tuckerus raised a manipulator for silence. But I have heard enough. Analyst Vex, you are dismissed while the council deliberates. Wada bowed and withdrew to the waiting chamber. Certain that my military career was over. You did not tell the High Council they were losing a war they had declared unlosable. You did not suggest retreat from primitives who barely had faster than light travel. But someone had to say it. I sat in the waiting chamber for 6 hours. Other witnesses came and went. Fleet captains reporting on skirmishes. Intelligence officers presenting analysis that contradicted mine. Scientists proposing new weapon systems that would surely turn the tide. All of them were missing the point. This was not a war that would be won with better weapons or more ships. This was a war of will. And the humans had already demonstrated they were willing to pay any price to make us leave. When I was finally recalled to the council chamber, I expected to be stripped of rank and assigned to some remote monitoring station, where I could not embarrass the military establishment any further. Instead, Rax looked at me with an expression I had never seen on a High Chancellor's face before. Fear. The Council has reviewed additional intelligence that arrived during your absence, he said. Intelligence that supports your analysis in ways we find troubling. Thane activated the central hologram. It showed a star map of Kartheen territory, with hundreds of systems marked in blue to indicate secure Dominion control. The decoders, except nearly a quarter of them were now flickering between blue and red. 3 hours ago, we received reports from our internal security forces, Thane said, his voice hollow. 14 separate incidents across 7 core systems, sabotage, assassinations, infrastructure failures. In each case, security footage shows human operatives who somehow bypassed multiple layers of protection to strike targets deep within Kartheen space. That is impossible, I said. Human territory is 3 months' travel from our core systems, even with fast courier ships. How are they getting operatives into position so quickly? We do not know, Rax admitted. But the more pressing question is how many more are already in position, waiting to strike. If they can reach our core systems, no Kartheen anywhere is safe. The implications settled over the chamber like a funeral shroud. The Dominion had built its power on the certainty that our technology was superior, our space was secure, our core worlds were untouchable. If humans could strike anywhere, at any time, then nowhere was safe. There is more, Rax continued. We intercepted a human broadcast meant for their civilian population. Playing it for you now. The hologram shifted to show a human female in military uniform, not Morgan, but someone with the same exhausted determination in her eyes. My name is Commander Helena Price. The recording began. 6 months ago, Captain Eliza Morgan showed the Kartheen that humanity does not surrender. We adapt. Today I stand before you to announce Operation Tombstone. For every human world the Kartheen have destroyed, we will destroy 10 of their military assets. For every civilian they have killed, we will extract a price they cannot afford to pay. We will not match them, ship for ship. We will make every Kartheen commander afraid to sleep, every Kartheen soldier afraid to deploy, every Kartheen citizen afraid that the species they tried to conquer is coming for them. Price leaned closer to the camera. To the Kartheen leadership watching this, you started this war because you thought we were weak. You thought we would calculate the odds and surrender.
You were wrong.
We have something you will never understand. We fight for each other, for our families, for the future you tried to steal from us, and we will keep fighting until you leave our space or until there is nothing left of your dominion but rubble and regret. Your choice." The recording ended. "They broadcast that to every human system simultaneously," Rax said. "Their entire population now knows the strategy. More importantly, they support it. Human civilian opinion polls show 97% approval for Operation Tombstone. An entire species unified in suicidal warfare," Thane muttered. "This is unprecedented." "No," I corrected. "This is exactly what happens when you attack a species that values community over individual survival. We gave them a common enemy. We gave them a shared purpose. We turned 4 billion individuals into a single weapon pointed directly at us." Rax slumped in his seat, suddenly looking every one of his 3 centuries. "The Council is prepared to authorize a general withdrawal from human space. We will maintain a defensive perimeter around our core systems and declare the war a mutual stalemate." "The humans will not accept that," I said. "They will keep coming. Every world we destroyed is a debt they intend to collect on." "Then what do you suggest, analyst?" I had been thinking about this since the Eternal Dominance exploded. 6 months of watching us lose ground, 6 months of seeing the same mistakes repeated, 6 months of wondering if there was any path forward that did not end with the Dominion collapsing. "We need to offer reparations," I said.
"Full withdrawal, yes.
"But also material support to rebuild the worlds we destroyed. Technology transfers to help them recover faster. And we need to hand over every commander who authorized attacks on civilian targets." "You are insane," Thane hissed. "We would be admitting defeat."
Admitting war crimes.
"We committed war crimes," I said flatly. Agricultural Station Titan 7, where Morgan's daughter died, was marked as a civilian facility in our own targeting databases. We hid it anyway because it was easier than verifying military targets. New Harvest was a farming colony with no military value whatsoever. We glassed it to make a point. How many others, Thane? How many civilian stations did we destroy because it was convenient? The silence that followed was damning. "If we offer reparations and accountability, we have a chance at negotiated peace," I continued. "If we try to save face and maintain our position, Operation Tombstone will spread to every system in the Dominion. The humans will turn our entire territory into a war zone where no one is safe. The other client species will see this as weakness," Rax said. "If we back down from humans, others will challenge our authority." "Let them," I said, "because the alternative is fighting a species that has weaponized martyrdom. Every human who dies in this war creates 10 more volunteers. Every attack we launch creates 100 more operatives willing to infiltrate our systems. This is not a war we can win through force. This is a war we end by admitting we never should have started it." The Council deliberated for 3 more days. During that time, 7 more Kartheen facilities reported human infiltration attempts. 4 were successful. The casualty count climbed, and the fleet stationed near human territory reported that their crews were on the edge of mutiny, terrified of every sensor contact, jumping at shadows. Captain Morgan had done more than destroy 1 mothership. She had broken our belief in our own invincibility. On the 4th day, the High Council issued a formal declaration. The Kartheen Dominion was withdrawing all military forces from human territory. We would pay reparations for civilian casualties. We would submit our military command to an independent tribunal to answer for war crimes. It was the most humiliating moment in Kartheen history. It was also the only way to survive. The human response came within hours. Commander Price appeared in another broadcast, this one more measured than the last. "The Kartheen Council has agreed to terms that begin to address the harm they have caused," she said.
Human Command is willing to accept a ceasefire pending verification of their withdrawal and cooperation with accountability proceedings.
"But let me be clear. We will be watching. Any deviation from the agreed terms, any attempt to regroup for another invasion, and Operation Tombstone resumes with prejudice." The war ended not with a final battle, but with a treaty signed in fear. I was assigned to the diplomatic mission that delivered the first reparations shipments to human territory. It was a punishment detail. Everyone knew it. The warrior who had told the Council they were losing, sent to grovel before the species that had defeated us. I did not care. Someone needed to see the humans up close, to understand what we had created. The human liaison officer, who met us at their border station, was a young man named Marcus, who had lost his entire family when we bombed the civilian transport they were traveling on. He was professional, efficient, and utterly cold. The supplies will be distributed to reconstruction efforts, he told me, as Kartheen cargo vessels unloaded medical equipment and building materials. We appreciate the Dominion's cooperation. I am sorry, I said, because someone needed to say it. For what we did, for the lives we took. Marcus looked at me for a long moment. You know what the difference is between your species and mine? He finally said. You fight wars to prove you are strong. We fight wars because you left us no choice. Captain Morgan did not want to die destroying your mothership. She wanted to watch her daughter grow up, but you took that future from her, so she took yours instead. He turned away, then paused. Tell your council something for me. Tell them humanity will remember this war for 1,000 generations. Tell them we will remember every name, every world, every life you took. And tell them that if they ever come back, if they ever threaten us again, there will be no negotiations, no treaties, just humans doing what Captain Morgan taught us we could do. What is that? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Make gods afraid. I returned to Kartheen Prime with that message. The High Council received it in silence. They understood, as I did, that we had not lost a war. We had earned an enemy that would haunt us for centuries. The Dominion survived, but it was never the same. Other species saw what humans had done and took note. Rebellions that might have been suppressed became successful revolutions. Client states that had submitted to Kartheen rule began demanding autonomy. The era of Dominion expansion was over. All because one human woman, grieving for her daughter, decided that if she could not save her child, she could at least make sure her death meant something. Captain Eliza Morgan is dead. Her ship was vaporized along with the Eternal Dominance. But her legacy lives on in every military academy across human space where her tactics are studied and refined. It lives on in the memorial built at Agricultural Station Titan 7, where visitors come to remember the price of peace. It lives on in the name given to their most elite Special Forces unit, Morgan's Reapers. And it lives on in the nightmares of every Kartheen who remembers the day our greatest mothership became a tomb. I finished this account as I began it with an admission. We lost the war before we knew we were losing it. We lost it the moment we assumed humans would act rationally. We lost it when we gave them nothing left to lose. Sleep well, fellow Kartheen. The humans have agreed to peace. But remember that peace is a choice they make every day, a choice they will unmake the moment we give them reason. And pray to whatever gods you believe in, that we never give them that reason again. Because I have seen what one human can do when backed into a corner. You do not want to see what 4 billion of them can do if we ever make that mistake twice.